But one day we said, wow, we're getting old.
We're Oldsteaders.
Oldsteaders, and we thought that's a whole community in itself in YouTube that never gets addressed. Is older people either starting homesteading,
Yeah.
continuing to homestead, or wanting to start their homestead at retirement or after retirement. And their sanity is questionable.
So is ours.
You feel old today?
I feel old today.
We have established, there's a huge community, not that we've established this, but there's a huge community of homesteaders on YouTube.
There is?
But what we established about this is there's really not, there's homesteaders with young families, and there's homesteaders our age that, they're in their retirement or starting their retirement, looking forward to their retirement, and they're off on their own.
And they're if they have children, are grown and
gone.
Have their children. So
Yeah. So they get to see the grandkids.
they do. Yeah.
And then there's us.
And there's us.
We don't always associate ourselves on the latter end because we have young kids and it keeps us busy. But one day we said, wow, we're getting old.
We're Oldsteaders.
Oldsteaders, and we thought that's a whole community in itself in YouTube that never gets addressed. Is older people either starting homesteading,
Yeah.
continuing to homestead, or wanting to start their homestead at retirement or after retirement. And their sanity is questionable.
So is ours.
No, but seriously,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, that should be addressed, that could be addressed in a community that, when we were younger, I was telling Ron this the other day, I can remember having an older person tell me that the world was run by young people. And I was like in my 20s thinking, what are you talking about? You're late 40s, mid 50s, and you kind of got control of everything. And I'm just trying to figure stuff out.
Right.
But now I look and I see that so much is geared totally for the 20s and 30s, especially in this techie generation.
Or younger.
Or younger, yep.
Focus on the young.
My arm's getting old. I can't hold the camera up.
Where's the tripod?
I don't know. So what's your thoughts on being an Oldsteader?
That's old.
It's getting old.
Homestead, that's getting old.
Well, one of the things we talked about was we did a video couple weeks ago, I guess, just 2 weeks ago. Quit.
Hello.
And there's
Is anybody out there?
Senility sets in, and about having to adjust our heating source for a while because of Ron.
Yeah, from time to time.
Ron's feet and stuff, and it brought up a whole slew of questions, and we started really contemplating more of the Oldsteader need in the community to encourage people. I mean, there's a lot of things to take into consideration when you're older and starting your homestead, because we've technically just started ours in the past couple of years as far as being totally off-grid.
Being here, yeah.
And though we have the younger, not the young boys, but the young men in their 20s to help, the reality is we have to haul twice as much wood because we're heating two places, and we have to grow twice as much food or animals. There's some things that, yes, it doubles over to where it's a help, but then there's another where it's just additional work, and so
it's challenging, It's,
being older and homesteading, or living with you.
Well, that's a challenge. That's a series all on its own. Let me lean against you.
It's better.
Can I put my arm on yours? No, it's a challenge. It is a challenge,
I'm trying to get us both in the frame here.
I keep trying to lean out.
Stop it.
Well, it is a challenge, and each day is a different challenge. We've said all along that in the wintertime, it's easier, in our opinion, getting firewood in the wintertime because the snow. We can use our sled.
It wasn't so this year, though. This year you guys sunk just like I did.
Well, yeah, this year is a little bit different, but it's still easier hauling a sled load of wood than hauling a piece of firewood.
Right.
So there's give and take both ways. I know some people look at our sled and, man, they are crazy.
Well, and I think that's part of the thing about starting a homestead, though. You start off with things that aren't optimal, but then you adjust to the things that are optimal, and then you have to take your age into consideration. But, disclaimer on the age deal, things happen when you're young. Things can happen when you're young.
Oh, yeah.
You can be injured. There can
absolutely.
be death to your spouse. I mean, things can
Absolutely.
just happen. So I think the advantage of being older and starting your homestead or getting serious about it is that you have the wisdom to start contemplating, because you have the aches and the pains to say, I'm going to have to alter this, or I'm going to have to make sure that I adjust for this, in a reasonable amount of time, versus thinking I got all the time in the world,
And 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 two, you can like with some things, maybe you do it at a slower pace, but you do it more frequent or a longer period of time, just at a slower pace, instead of rushing to get this thing, whatever it is, done in this block of time.
Right.
Even though we still do work on blocks of time, some things just need to be what's the word I'm looking for? That's what happens when you get
But I think the big thing is that so many people, we've talked to people that are waiting till they're older to start homesteading, and then some of them seem afraid to take that leap, because when you're younger, you think, okay, I'd really love to do something along those lines, have a more self-sufficient life, but I've got to wait until I retire because my job is here, my career's here, and I need to make sure I have my retirement.
Yeah.
But when you're in your 20s and your 30s and you're thinking that sounds like a great plan, but then when you get to retirement age, you have a whole lot more aches and pains than you did 20 or 30 years earlier, and now you're thinking that dream that you've carried all these years probably isn't so feasible, and people from fear stop themselves from doing it.
Well, and a lot of that is the dream.
Yes.
And if it stays a dream, then it's it's always
safe.
a dream.
It's safe. Yeah, that's
safe.
true.
So, yeah. Sorry.
Well, I just think the thing is there needs to be some encouragement in the homesteading community for people of advanced years, or people that that are facing challenges with homesteading, maybe because they've got a handicap or disability of some sort.
Age really doesn't have.
It doesn't, but it's the obvious. It's the obvious. You can look at someone and see they're older.
Right.
You can look at somebody and see certain things about them versus. I had no idea where I'm going with that thought. But age is the obvious. Everybody looks at assuming that they're going to make it that far, looking at getting old and what are they going to do in those years.
Well, and some of that too, aging. If you're able to buy equipment, for.
Or if that's what you want. Some people don't even want it when they're able.
Well, no,
I mean, that's.
They're buying their. Whatever, I don't know, tractors or log splitters or bobcats or whatever, just
right.
whatever. But we've chosen not to do that, and not only chosen, we financially can't do some of those.
But it lines up well with our choices, because if we were financially able, we wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But when when someone says, well, why don't you go get this? Well, first off, I don't want it, but secondly, I can't afford it, and therefore it's a perfect match. It's a perfect unity.
Yeah.
So it's not something that to say, I'm going to save up for this. I don't want to save up for it because it's not what we want.
Yeah.
So we have to find the alternative to that to stay in line with our perspective of the dream.
Yep. Maybe someday down the road we will do a log splitter. type, you know.
But then there's I think there's the thing there you have found as a back patient, and you found as you've aged, that when you don't work, physically work, you are in at least as bad, if not worse shape as when you do.
Oh yeah.
And you have a vitality about you because you do work, so physically. But some people can't do that, and that's understandable.
Right.
That's but that's where that change comes in. Is if you're older and you can't do it, but you still want to live the dream, then get that log splitter or hire it brought in, or then again you have to financially be able to do it.
Right. There's
heat with propane.
Yeah. You don't have to have firewood. No. Absolutely not.
There are alternatives to achieving the dream of homesteading, an off-grid homestead.
Absolutely. Especially if you're, way south or something, or,
Homestead in a southern climate, go for it. But that would take care of the problem.
That would.
If you're physically don't want to deal with the snow and physically don't want to deal with the firewood, then homesteading you could be remote in a southern climate.
Warmer climate, absolutely. So what do? We chose to go almost as far north in Michigan as we could.
So I think that's the thing is, realizing your choices, and then when you're faced with them, it's not a thing of complaining. It's a shock. Sometimes it's a shock of reality, but then you just dive in and do it. But you only get one shot at this life. You get one shot to live your dream, because when it's done, it's done. And
and that's exactly right. And some of the folks we've known and do know, they wait till they get to that retirement age. They do retire, and it's like, now what do I do? You've spent 25, 30, 40 years, whatever, working, and now you're done. Now where do I start?
Right. There is a, I don't know if it's like a movement, but it's been going on for a while, and it's copyrighted the urban homesteader. But I'm telling you what, and we've talked about it before, there is no new thing under the sun. There's no new homesteading creativity that hasn't been done before by our ancestors. When I was growing up back in the 70s, there was a couple that lived across the road. We lived in town, postage stamp yard, and they had 2 postage stamp yards. They had their house. They actually had 3. They had 2 empty lots in their house, and that was huge. Yeah. And they were an older couple. I'm talking older couple. And they had, I never thought about it before, but they had the original urban homestead, because they had things from fruits to vegetables to everything you could consider growing for a garden, and in town. She canned it, she froze it. She got to the point where freezing was her favorite thing. They had a cellar. So, and he did it until he died. He died of a heart attack. I mean, he was in his 80s and he keeled over. That was not very polite. He was in his 80s when he passed away, and that was an example, though, of they had their dream. And their dream wasn't to be off-grid, probably because they grew up some of it off-grid when they were younger.
Oh, I'm sure they did,
But they utilized the area they had, regardless of their age. I mean, he literally hand-pushed his three yards with one of those old...
real mowers.
And we ended up buying it in a garage sale when she put it up for sale. And Josiah used it.
He did.
Yeah. For years.
It weighs about 900 pounds.
And my whole point in this is just that, when you get to a point when you retire and you've wanted to homestead and you say, oh, I just can't do it. You can do it wherever you're at. That was the big deal with countryside. Bloom where you're at. And I think that's true. But don't be afraid of living the dream if it's getting a little, spot of land somewhere. Just get your...
Well, I was talking to a gentleman at the artesian well the other day. He moved up here 27 years ago, and he came from Chicago.
He's what, 60 something?
He's 69. Yep.
So just about 12 years older than you.
Yep.
Sorry. Reality check.
He's 69, and for 20 years he lived up here, but he lived in a different location in a trailer park for 20 years. And then 7 years ago, I believe he retired, and he goes, what am I doing here? He bought a hunting camp.
Just a little in the forest, but it's still just a little spot.
Yep, he bought a half an acre, not too far from us, and it's paradise. It's paradise for him. That's what he said. It's paradise.
And he has a neighbor who
just what do you say? Yeah, just down the road, a few hundred yards. That gentleman's in a wheelchair. So he kind of looks out for him, I guess, and but yeah, that's half an acre. It's I believe he's got an older mobile home on it, that he bought. But it's paradise.
It's sometimes dreams have to be modified, but they shouldn't be forgotten.
Right.
We're going to have an Oldsteader movement.
Yes. Yes.
Let's support
wait. We need to be careful how we say that.
Let's have.
Let's see.
But really,
we can stick with an Oldsteader movement. That's okay. That's funny.
Oh.
That's funny.
But I don't know. I see a lot of. There's needs for young families, and there's need
Absolutely.
for the.
We all need encouragement.
All right, y'all. Don't let the dream die.
That's right. God bless.
God bless.